Feed the neighborhood with a tailgate-ready Big Bow Box. And it's bow time.
Welcome back to another episode of Extra Points. Joining me today are both sports editors for The Breeze, Grant Johnson and Madison Hricik. Guys, how are we doing today? JMU coming off their first loss of the season, now 5-1. I guess what stood out to you at that game?
Yeah, that game, it was a weird one for JMU. It was the first time where I think the mistakes finally caught up to JMU. They have not played perfect games by any stretch of the imagination. Against App State, they're down 20-3 in the second quarter, and you bring it even to like Texas State. They had multiple turnovers. It was a very sloppy game. But I think, it was a Sunbelt game on the road against a quality team. And JMU just, as Kurt Signetti said multiple times, head coach at JMU, you can't have a block punt for a touchdown and 4 turnovers and expect to win games in the Sun Belt. So I just think that combined with Georgia Southern had a very real passing attack. They lit up JMU for almost 600 yards, program record. But, when you make those mistakes, you can't win consistently in, heightened competition with the Sun Belt.
Madison, for you?
I have to agree. I think Kyle Van Treese, Georgia Southern's quarterback, is an extremely underrated Sun Belt quarterback. He is an incredible passer. He can read really well. He knows how to figure out where he can place the ball so that his receivers are in the best position to win those one-on-one battles. And I think that exploited JMU's secondary a little bit. It was something that a lot of fans were concerned about. They were concerned about the corners and the safeties and how they were going to react to a little bit more of that air raid offense. It was a topic that was brought up against Middle Tennessee. JMU handled Middle Tennessee just fine, as we all know. However, we saw that kind of fall apart a little bit against the Eagles. And so this game against Marshall and being able to bounce back and kind of, for lack of a better word, redeem themselves is going to be very important for this team in continuing, this historic season that they've already begun.
Coach mentioned during the press conference on Tuesday a little bit about maintaining that edge and how after multiple victories, being 5-0, sometimes you get a little too confident and that margin of error becomes very slim. And obviously we saw them unfortunately fall to the Eagles last week. Now we're looking upon Marshall, another tough game. Marshall 3-3. They've beaten some pretty good teams with Notre Dame, but they've also lost to some maybe not so good teams in Bowling Green. But what can JMU do this week, maybe on the defensive side, to bounce back?
Yeah, the JMU defense, they've talked all week how they are, their goal every week, Taurus Jones, linebacker, said that, they don't want to give up any points. And coming off a week where you give up 45, that's a fire that's going to be lit under them. So I think they're going to come out pretty strong. They're going to be going up against a 2-quarterback system, it looks like, for Marshall. So that'll be different. They don't have to face Rasheen Ali, Marshall's leading rusher, who hasn't really played this year. He was, 1,500 yards, 20 touchdowns last year. He's, been their kind of their workhorse. But so it's going to be a different Marshall offense. But no, I think JMU's defense, Kurt Signetti, when I asked him kind of on Monday, it was, he's not too concerned about the defense because he feels like last week giving up 45, that was a multi-team thing that led to that. It's the offense putting the defense in bad situations, and it was the special teams giving up 7 points. So I think we'll see a very passionate JMU defense in front of a sold-out homecoming crowd. From all indications, it's going to be a purple uniforms and gold helmets. I think, feel good, play good. That whole motto might come into play. So, no, I expect a much better defensive effort from JMU this Saturday.
And then on the opposite of the ball, offensively, what can the Dukes do to maybe rebound again and hopefully come away with the victory?
Well, one of the things that Signetti said on Monday that I really kind of honed in on was the mindset of critique and file away. It was something when I had asked him, how do you kind of learn and grow from the mistakes that you made while watching the previous game's film while also staying focused on your next opponent? Because JMU is very much zeroed in. They are laser-eyed, solely focused on Marshall right now. However, there are things that they could learn from the loss to Georgia Southern. And so Signetti responded with the mentality of critique it and then file away. Essentially what that means is we'll learn and grow and then we move on. And I think that that's something the offense is really going to be honing in on. Obviously, Todd Centeio did not have a great game. He threw 3 interceptions against the Eagles after only having 1 on the entire season going into Statesboro, Georgia. And so he's going to be looking to do a little bit more to kind of redeem himself, continue the growing confidence that he's had with this JMU offense. The receivers are going to need to pick up the pace a little bit. Chris Thornton and Reggie Brown were able to make some catches here and there throughout the game, but it wasn't the same consistent double receiver that we've seen from them in the past. And, I think the run game, Georgia Southern did a good job of shutting down JMU's run game. And so building that back up, continuing to rely on Percy and Luttrell and getting them the reps that they need, being able to be aggressive, play that physical style of football that those 2 running backs bring. I think those are going to be the main catalysts for JMU to bounce back this week.
We've talked a lot about JMU here today, but what about Marshall, the team we're facing? What can JMU do, or what can we expect from that Marshall Herd team? We'll start with you this time, that Marshall offense.
Well, what's interesting about Marshall right now is they've got a little bit of a dual quarterback system. Henry Columbi, the starting quarterback, he was taken out of the game against Louisiana. It was a midweek Wednesday game, but he was taken out for an injury, and redshirt freshman Cam Fancher, I believe is how you pronounce it, he stepped in and started to take that place. Now, head coach Charles Huff has come out and said that Columbi is healthy. He's healthy, and the reason he did not re-enter that game against Louisiana was because Fancher was moving the ball well. So JMU has said that they are prepared to see both quarterbacks at play. Columbi is a redshirt senior. He's a very mature quarterback, nothing JMU hasn't seen before. But, having that dual quarterback system, sometimes that can bode really, really well for his team, and other times it can't. So that might be something that JMU can take advantage of, especially when that second quarterback is a younger quarterback.
All right, and Marshall's defense, what can the JMU offense expect from them?
Yeah, so what stands out about Marshall's defense is, Hricik said earlier in this week that this is likely the best defense they've played all year. And he specifically pointed to how big they are in the front seven. So, I know Maddie talked a little bit about Latrell Palmer and Percy Ajaobase trying to get back on track. That might not happen this week, and we might see more of Reggie Brown and Chris Thornton in the pass game. Reggie Brown being able to build off what was a career day last Saturday. So I expect, it looks like it's going to be good weather tomorrow. I expect to see Todd Centeio maybe airing it out a little bit, keep getting the tight ends involved in the pass game. They've been guys who've stepped up recently with Zach Horton and Drew Painter. But no, I think running the ball might be a challenge for JMU more so than it has maybe in previous home games. When you look at, Middle Tennessee and Norfolk State and, Texas State, they're really able to kind of bludgeon those teams on the ground at Bridgeforth. But you might see Todd Centeio airing it out, 35, 40 times. And, that will be a change as far as, what the play calls are at home.
Indeed. Well, a lot to look forward to for tomorrow's homecoming matchup against Marshall. I guess the final thing here is our score prediction. So I'll go down the line here and get everyone's score prediction for tomorrow's matchup.
So I was getting a little bit of heat for this, but I'm thinking it's going to be kind of a low-scoring contest. Marshall comes in with a top 15 defense as far as yards given up, and so does JMU. I'm going 24-13 Dukes.
Interesting score there. Madison, for you?
So we've been talking about this before we started filming, but JMU has had a pretty decent record since the games after Taylor Swift drops a new album. Midnights came out today. They are 5-2 when Taylor Swift drops an album. I have a feeling they're going to make it 6-2 on Saturday. I believe it is going to be a little bit more on a higher score. I believe it's going to be 44-38 JMU. It's going to be a little bit higher of a score game because JMU does love to score points at home.
So we have high scoring and low scoring here. I'm also going to go JMU, but not because of Taylor Swift. I'm just going to pick JMU at home on homecoming. My final score prediction is going to be 27-24 in a close one. Thank you for joining us.